One question you might be asking about this new velocity versus time graph is how is it related to the position versus time graph? Is it its own separate graph? Yes. But is it related to the position versus time graph? Yes. Totally. And it's all about slope. We take the slope of the position versus time graph and that becomes the velocity versus time graph. And so let's take a look. So let's just do a couple of examples. Suppose that I have this kind of motion on a position versus time graph. That should be kind of comfortable motion for you. Well, what does that become over on the position versus time? The velocity versus time graph. Well, it's all about the slope. So let's look at the slope and I see, oh, it has a constant positive slope of the same magnitude. So we could even just imagine it was like 5 meters per second. Just imagining. All right, and suppose that you had over here was the value for 5 meters per second. Well, at these various times, you'd say, okay, well, at this point, since velocity is the slope of the position versus time graph, over there, then we're going to plot. See, plot, what would those plots look like over time? So every time you said, oh, the slope here is 5, well, you come over here and add a point. So essentially it becomes a line like that. For this kind of graph here, we get a line. All right, let's look at another example. Let's suppose that we have some motion that looks like this. And I notice that, oh, this has constant slope. Every line has a constant slope. And this one happens to have negative. And it's actually about the same steepness as the blue line above. So I'm going to just make that -5 meters per second. Just made up numbers here. We have no numbers, so I'm just making the value up. And so I would come down to, I would find -5 on the velocity axis. And I would do kind of the same thing, but now we already know it's going to be a flat line. This is our first look at how these graphs are related, so we will be coming back to that. But I thought I would just give you a little introduction to how they're related.